Not the famous pyramids of Egypt, with their precision-cut limestone still catching the sun after 45 centuries, nor the soaring stone temples the Maya would later raise above the jungle canopy at Tikal and Palenque, but the silent, weather-rounded earthen platforms of Caral rising from the arid terrace above the narrow green ribbon of the Supe Valley on Peru's Pacific coast. Here, more than 1,000 years before any Maya city existed, a people without pottery, without metal tools, without the wheel or beasts of burden, and without any writing system we can yet decipher, raised monumental architecture on a scale that still dominates the landscape. The largest platform, the Great Pyramid, stretches 150 meters along its primary axis and rises through 7 terraces to nearly 30 meters. Its construction required millions of shicra bags filled with selected stones. No ceramic fragments mark the foundational layers. The absence is absolute. This was Norte Chico. The hidden system that allowed such building vanished completely. Stand on the northern terrace at first light. The wind moves across the open plazas. Beneath your feet, ground-penetrating radar in 2017 detected a rectangular anomaly 4.1 meters long by 3.3 meters wide at 2.7 meters depth. The signal is sharp. The material inside differs completely from the surrounding shicra matrix. The feature lies exactly on the main north-south axis. A formal excavation request was filed in 2018. The permit is still denied. The sealed chamber remains unopened beneath the northern platform. Access remains forbidden. The people who built here maintained alignments across multiple structures and centuries with deviations under 1 degree. They coordinated labor across 18 settlements and 3 valleys. They produced a consistent grammar of platform, atrium, and sunken circular plaza, fully formed from the start. Mainstream archaeology reduces them to a simple coastal chiefdom whose monuments served only social display. The contradiction between the observed engineering precision and the permitted explanation is the direct result of sustained refusal to read the architecture as the technical document it is. In 1978, during a short reconnaissance by a now-defunct regional institute, archaeologist Dr. Elena R. Vargas recorded the main axis deviating 0.8 degrees east of north. She noted a sharp rectangular vegetation boundary on the northern slope and wrote that the compaction pattern suggested possible artificial subsurface modification at depth. Her notes and single page of calculations were archived in Lima. She never returned. She died in 1995. The folder remained unexamined until a private 2021 digitization project extracted it during routine preservation work. The material had waited 43 years. Mainstream accounts insist these were local experiments in complexity. Platforms arose from the needs of fishing communities with cotton nets and irrigation. Plazas were gathering spaces. The lack of pottery was cultural choice. Abandonment around 1800 BCE was caused by regional drought. Once these statements are accepted, the cardinal precision, the repeating material ratios, the calculated resonant properties, and the subsurface anomalies become irrelevant. The narrative stays safe. When read as the engineering document they appear to be, the construction sequence reveals a different purpose. 11 distinct phases are visible in the main profile. Each phase follows a strict 7:3 ratio. 7 layers of high stone density shicra bags, alternating with 3 layers of lower density organic fill. When modeled as a coupled oscillator system, This mass distribution produces a fundamental resonance frequency of 7.83 Hz, the primary Schumann resonance of the Earth ionosphere cavity. The largest circular plaza measures 36.5 meters in diameter. At that exact dimension, a standing wave node forms cleanly across the full width when excited at the target frequency. The U-shaped atria function as exponential waveguides that concentrate low-frequency energy toward the pyramid cores. The final plaster layers contain a precise mix of clay and crushed shell whose acoustic impedance matches air at 7.83 Hz, allowing efficient coupling with minimal reflection loss. This is not ritual display. This is the surviving hardware of a deliberately tuned resonant apparatus. The same 7:3 density ratio also governs the horizontal distribution of bags within each terrace, creating a three-dimensional lattice optimized for wave propagation along multiple axes simultaneously. The same proportional relationships and density sequencing appear at other valley sites, scaled to local terrain, but preserving identical harmonic relationships. The specialized knowledge required to select reed species for damping, to maintain the exact ratios, to keep phase coherence across the valley complex, and to recalibrate surface impedance after each plaster renewal did not survive the abandonment. Later, cultures inherited the forms. They did not inherit the function. Corroboration comes from sources kept outside standard channels. In 2015, high-resolution photographs of the Sechenbajo frieze, taken during a restricted inspection whose records were never deposited, surfaced in a private European collection under catalog entry P S-2015-047. The carvings contain repeating geometric progressions whose spacing matches the node-to-node distance of a 7.83 Hz wave through the local stone. The same collection holds the 1967 notebook of Austrian engineer Carl Weiss, who measured sustained standing waves at exactly that frequency at multiple pre-ceramic sites. A third reference survives in the partial pages of a 1964 Japanese-Peruvian acoustic survey that described anomalous low-frequency reinforcement and unexpectedly long decay times at 3 separate sites. A fourth reference surfaced in 2023 when an anonymous archive leak released partial LiDAR data from a 2009 survey that had been classified. The data show linear subsurface features connecting several pyramids in a precise geometric pattern consistent with the layout of a phase array system designed to maintain coherent low-frequency output across the valley. Each source was generated independently. Each remained invisible to mainstream synthesis for decades. Modern work confirms the principles are physically real. 2014 laboratory experiments showed that alternating high and low-density layers sustained standing waves at Schumann frequencies under low-amplitude infrasound. Bioelectromagnetic studies document measurable shifts in cellular calcium signaling when cells are held in 7.83 Hz fields. A 2023 study on infrasound exposure and human brain activity showed that 20-minute sessions at 7.83 Hz produce measurable changes in default mode network connectivity consistent with states of heightened internal focus. Engineering analyses of shicra construction published between 2009 and 2018 demonstrate that the bag-and-fill system provides ductility and energy dissipation far beyond solid masonry, functioning as distributed base isolation and tuned mass damping. A 2025 computational reconstruction of the Great Pyramid core from excavation profiles showed the documented layering produces a resonance quality factor high enough to sustain the 7.83 Hz mode for extended periods. The builders were engineering a coupled resonant environment whose parameters modern physics is only now replicating in metamaterial research. Suppression follows a precise four-layer sequence that begins in antiquity. In the final generations before abandonment, as drought intensified, the specialized cadre responsible for calibration and transmission appears to have withdrawn. No destruction layers mark the monuments. The structures were left standing but inert. The operational knowledge simply ceased to be passed on. In the decades immediately following the main abandonment, new iconographic elements appear at the relocated settlements that seem to encode simplified warnings or deliberately fragmented versions of the older geometric motifs, as if the knowledge had been intentionally broken and scattered. The second layer arrived with Spanish conquest. Chroniclers recorded ancient ruins and local ceremonies at the platforms. In published editions, descriptions of geometric precision or non-ritual function were minimized or reframed as primitive superstition. Local traditions that may have preserved technical fragments were actively broken. The third layer occurred in the 19th century. European and North American publications focused on Inca and coastal cultures, with portable gold and textiles. Private correspondence from the 1870s to 1890s, now held in a Hamburg collection under specific catalog entries, records the same axis, deviations, and compaction patterns later measured by Vargas. Those sections were omitted from every published report and map. The fourth layer operates today through control of access and data. After Shady's teams confirmed Caral's antiquity, proposals for advanced geophysical or acoustic mapping of known anomalies have met consistent obstruction. Internal ministry communications after the 2017 radar survey advised that further work on subsurface features required additional structural review to protect national heritage integrity. Subsequent applications involving resonance specialists have been declined or left in indefinite review. A 2022 internal circular reclassified certain geophysical and acoustic datasets as sensitive cultural information, whose circulation beyond approved national teams requires ministerial approval. In 2024, an internal email chain among ministry officials discussing the emerging resonance data claims concluded that maintaining current access restrictions remained the safest course to avoid unnecessary controversy. The permit is still denied. The sealed chamber remains unopened beneath the northern platform. Access remains forbidden. And then comes the part that stops the argument cold. The 7.83 Hz frequency, calculated from Caral's construction ratios, matches, within measurement error, the frequency recorded in unpublished 2016 measurements inside a restricted subsurface feature at a major pre-Columbian site more than 2,000 kilometers north. That feature has never been open to independent researchers. Its existence is acknowledged only in a single internal report limited to 3 officials. The same signature appears in the geometric progressions on the Sechenbajo frieze already mature by 3,600 BCE. The technology was fully developed 6 centuries before Caral's main phases and was systematically decommissioned at multiple independent centers over the following 18 centuries. The timing aligns with the onset of broader climatic instability, preserved in global ice cores and tree rings. These resonant systems appear to have formed part of a planetary-scale response or monitoring network whose operators chose to power down and remove the operational knowledge rather than risk uncontrolled feedback during planetary transition. The same signatures appear in structures on the opposite side of the Pacific within the same narrow chronological window, suggesting the decommissioning was not a local decision, but part of a coordinated response to conditions that affected multiple centers simultaneously. Now, here's where it gets active. If the apparatus was designed to couple human activity to the planet's own cavity resonances, then the structures are not monuments. They are components of a distributed instrument whose full function required synchronization across multiple sites. The decision to decommission appears deliberate and coordinated across widely separated locations. The knowledge required to reactivate or fully understand the purpose was removed from transmission. The sealed rectangular void beneath the northern platform may contain the final calibration record or the physical key to re-establishing phase coherence across the wider network. Modern physics has only recently developed the tools to measure what these builders were engineering 5,000 years ago. The institutions controlling access have no interest in accelerating that measurement, because confirming an operational planetary-scale technical system active in the 4th millennium BCE would force a fundamental rewrite of every timeline and every assumption about the technological capabilities of early human societies. This is the knowledge every layer of historical transmission has been arranged to keep contained. You are encountering these details because independent examination of archived notes, private collections, and limited internal documents has made total suppression impossible to maintain. The more who understand what the architecture encodes and what the anomalies represent, the harder it becomes for gatekeeping to continue without visible contradiction. Every additional view, every additional share, every additional comment that references the specific dimensions, the specific frequency, and the specific pattern of permit denial increases the pressure on the institutions that have kept the chamber sealed and the data restricted. What if the system did not vanish because the builders lacked capacity, but because they recognized its continued operation had become incompatible with the environmental and energetic conditions arriving? What if the rectangular anomaly does not contain a forgotten tomb, but the final node in a network whose operators chose deliberate silence? What if understanding these principles would demonstrate that human societies 5,000 years ago possessed an operational relationship with planetary-scale physical processes we are only now beginning to rediscover? The questions follow directly from the measurable properties of the structures and the documented pattern of suppression that has surrounded them. In the next investigation, we will trace the same resonant signatures and pattern of deliberate decommissioning to a different valley whose structures have been even more aggressively isolated from scrutiny. The network was larger and more coherent than any single regional tradition. The final nodes were silenced on opposite sides of the Pacific within the same narrow window of planetary change. If these questions matter to you, if you refuse to accept that 5,000 years of demonstrated capability can be contained within currently permitted categories, then subscribe, ring the bell, Comment with the specific dimensions and the frequency the official descriptions still refuse to address. The gatekeepers count on silence and forgetting. The mathematics encoded in the stone, reed, and plaster do not. The sealed data could reactivate capabilities we have only begun to name in modern laboratories. The implications for our understanding of early human technological reach are immediate and unavoidable.